Hello friends, in this video I will explain about organizational ethics. So as you can see, the first topic here given, I think it is visible. So the first topic given, top managers and organizational ethics. Okay, so an ethical dilemma. So given an ethical dilemma is the uncertainty people find themselves in when they have to decide if they should act in a way that might help another person or group and is the right thing to do, even though doing so might go against their own self-interest. Okay, so here now just see here, it is clearly written, ethical dilemma is uncertainty. It means ethical dilemma is uncertainty. What type of uncertainty it is? Ethical dilemma. So it is a type of people find themselves in when they have to decide if they should act in a way that might means people may come in the situation when they have to decide whether they should act that way or not. Okay, so they are in that type of dilemma and they are uncertain about that whether if they do that, then in that case the outcome it will be better or not. Okay, so in that type of uncertainty they uh, get into it. Okay, so that's why here written ethical dilemma. Okay, so first of all, for understanding this in much more better way, here given ethics. So ethics are the inner guiding moral principle. So ethics are inner guiding moral principles, values and beliefs that people use to analyze or interpret a situation and then decide what is the right or appropriate way to behave. Okay, so ethics are inner guiding moral principles, values and beliefs which people use to analyze and interpret a situation whether that is right or appropriate way to behave. Okay, means people analyze their behavior whether that is appropriate or not according to the inner guiding moral principles, values and beliefs, and those inner guiding moral principle, values and beliefs are ethics. Okay, so at the same time, ethics also indicate what inappropriate behavior is, how a person should behave to avoid doing harm to another person. So if here ethics tool means here just now I explained that ethics it is the inner guiding moral principle which people use to analyze whether the behavior is appropriate or not. Okay, whether that behavior may cause harm to others or not. In the same way, it also tells us about whether the behavior is inappropriate or not. And also how a person should behave to avoid doing harm to another person. Okay, so in simple or in short we can say moral principle or beliefs about what is right or wrong. So now you can see moral principles or beliefs about what is right or wrong are ethics. There is no absolute or indisputable rules or principles that can be developed to decide if an action is ethical or unethical. So there is no absolute or indisputable. It means whatever principles which people use to, which people use to analyze their behavior. So those all principle and beliefs are disputable. So there are always some type of dispute if an action is ethical or unethical. Okay, so ethics and law, how ethics and laws are related to each other. How are we and the companies and their managers decide what is ethical? How we decide whether any behavior is ethical or not? So here First given, using political and legal process. So by using here, using political and legal process can lobby for and pass laws that specify what people and organizations can and cannot do. It means by using political and legal process, we can decide that what are acceptable and what are not acceptable by the people and the organizations. Okay, neither laws nor ethics are fixed principles that remain constant over time. So both means ethics and laws both are not constant, both change with the passage of time. Ethical beliefs ethical beliefs lead to the development of laws and regulation to prevent certain behaviors or encourage others. Laws themselves can and do change and disappear as ethical beliefs change. Now you see, ethical beliefs lead to the development of laws. It means whatever ethical beliefs we possess, so those ethical beliefs lead to the formation or development of laws and regulations. Okay, so why those laws are developed? So those laws and regulation developed from the ethical beliefs. So why those laws developed? To prevent certain behaviors and encourage others. So if we want certain behaviors to prevent and others behavior to encourage, then we develop laws, and those laws come from our ethical beliefs. And laws themselves can and do change. So laws also change just the way ethics change. So here given, laws themselves can and do change and disappear as ethical beliefs change. So according to the ethical beliefs, laws also change. If our belief system change, then in that case laws also change. Bec- because behavior may not be illegal does not mean it is ethical. It means we can say here that if any behavior is not illegal, it means that is not against any law, then in that case it is not 100% sure that that behavior is ethical. It may be that is unethical, but that is not against any law. Ethics and organizational stakeholder. So how ethics and organizational stakeholders are related? Ethics guide managers in their decisions about what to do in various situations. Now you see, managers are a organizational stakeholder. So ethics guide managers in their decisions about what to do in various situations. Ethics also help managers decide how best to respond to the interest of various organizational stakeholders. It means we can say managers are guided by ethics, means the belief system. And according to that, managers decide how best to respond to the interest of various organizational stakeholders. Stakeholders may be uh, employees, customers, government, etc. The three models for determining whether a decision is ethical are, so three models we can use to determine whether the decision is ethical. So first given model, utilitarian model. Second given, moral rights model. Third given, justice model. Each model offers a different and complementary way of determining whether a decision or behavior is ethical, and all three models should be used to shortcut the ethics of a particular course of action. It means these all three models are complementary. Okay, complementary means they support each other, they verify each other, they analyze each other, and all three methods should be used to shortcut. Means if we want to analyze whether the behavior is according to ethics or not, so we should use all three models, then the result we will get correct. So the first model given, utilitarian model. So according to this model, an ethical decision is a decision that produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Okay, if any decision uh, based on, in other words, we can say if any decision produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people, if greatest number of people are getting benefit from that decision, then that decision is ethical. Then second given, moral rights model. According to moral rights model, an ethical decision is a decision that best maintains and protects the fundamental rights and privileges of people affected by it. Okay, according to moral rights model, if any decision, okay, if any decision uh, maintains, okay, if any decision maintain and protects the fundamental rights, if any decision maintains and protects the fundamental rights and privileges of people affected by that decision, it means we can say that decision is ethical according to moral rights model. Then next it is given justice model. According to the justice model, an ethical decision is a decision that distributes benefits and harms among stakeholders in a fair and equitable or impartial way. It means we can say justice model tells us that you know what, a decision is ethical decision if that decision distributes benefits and harm, means whether it is going to be benefit or harm. So distributes the benefits and harms among all stakeholders in fair and equitable. If benefits and harms are going to be distributed in a fair and equitable way, then in that case that decision is ethical. Then next given, so a decision is acceptable on ethical grounds if a manager can answer. So now you can see how we can decide. So a decision is accept. Practically, how we can decide that the decision is acceptable on ethical grounds. So here given, a decision is acceptable on ethical grounds if a manager can answer yes to each of these questions. So what are these questions? So if the answer of these all questions are going to be yes, then in that case we can say that decision is acceptable on the basis of ethical, on the basis of ethic, on the base, yes, on the basis of ethical grounds. That's it. So the first given, does my decision fall within the acceptable values or standards that typically apply in the organizational environment? Okay, so here does my decision, it means if whether the decision fall within the acceptable values or standards that typically apply in the organizational environment. If in the organizational environment the decision taken by the manager fall within the acceptable, well, within the acceptable values or a standard, then in that case we can say that decision is ethical. Okay, if the answer is yes for this. Am I willing to, the second question is that, am I willing to see the decision communicated to all stakeholders affected by it? Am I willing to see the decision communicated? So whether that whatever decision taken by the manager, whether that decision should reach or should be communicated to all stakeholders affected by that decision, for example by having it reported in newspapers or on television. Okay, if the manager is willing for this, that decision is going to be communicated on the television or in the newspaper, then that is ethical, and if not, then that is not ethical. Then third given, would the people with whom I have significant personal relationships such as family members, friends, or even managers in other organizations approve of the decision? Okay, whether that decision is ethical or not, if that decision reaches to those significant people, just like uh, family members, friends, or even managers in the organization. And if that and if that decision is going to be approved by those all people, then in that case that decision is ethical. It means you can say third one again, I'm reading: would the people with whom I have a significant personal relationships, such as family members, friends, or even managers in other organizations, approve of the decision? Okay. From a management perspective, an ethical decision is a decision that reasonable or typical stakeholders would find acceptable because it adds stakeholders, the organizations, or society. Okay, now from the management perspective, from the perspective of the management, an ethical decision is a type of decision that reasonable or typical stakeholders find acceptable. Okay, it means any reasonable or typical stakeholder find that decision acceptable, then that decision is ethical in, according to the management perspective. Then given sources of ethical, so sorry, sources of organizational ethics. So what are different sources of organizational ethics? The three principal sources of ethical values that influence organizational ethics are: first given societal ethics, second given group or professional ethics, and third given individual ethics. So societal, first societal ethics. Societal ethics are codified in a society's legal system. Societal ethics are codified in a society's legal system, in its customs and practices, and in the unwritten norms and values that people use to interact with each other. Okay. So when people interact each other in the society, then they use okay then they use legal system in and its custom and practices and the unwritten norms and values. Okay, so these all things combine to give societal ethics. Okay, so again I am reading: societal ethics are codified. So where that societal ethics are codified? In the society's legal system, in its customs and practices, and in the unwritten norms and values that people use to interact with each other. Okay, many ethical norms and values are followed automatically by people in a society because people have internalized society's values and made them part of their own. Okay. So there are some ethical norms and values about which people are not aware of, but because they have internalized those all uh, norms and values. Okay, so from that also come the organizational ethic. Now the second given professional ethics. Professional ethics are moral values and sorry professional ethics are the moral rules and values that a group of people uses to control the way they perform a task or uses resources. Okay, so what here given about professional ethics? So professional ethics are moral rules and values. So here moral rules and values which a group of people uses, means if a group of people using moral rules and values for performing certain task, okay, so then we can say, so those moral rules and values are professional ethics. Third given individual ethics. Individual ethics are the personal and moral standards used by individuals to structure their interaction with other people. Okay. Individual ethics are the personal and moral standards, means each and every person has some personal and moral standards which that person uses to compare his or her behavior with the others, and accordingly that person behaves. So here given used by individuals to structure their interaction with the means, and accordingly the person will interact with other person. If personal ethics conflict with law, a person may be subject to legal sanction. So if a personal ethics conflict with the society's law, then in that case a person may be subjected to legal sanctions. Personal ethics are also the result of person's upbringing and may stem from family. So, from where personal ethics come from? From family, friends, membership in a church, or other significant social institution. Okay. So, from family, from friends, from membership to different groups, from these all things, personal ethics develop. Okay. Personal ethics influence how a person will act in an organization. So that's it is means according to the ethics developed by the person, means the personal ethics. So that will decide how the person is going to behave in the organization. Then these three, so all above mentioned three sources of ethics: first societal ethics, second professional ethics, and the third individual ethics. These all three sources of ethics collectively influence the ethics that develop inside an organization. Okay, so these all three different sources of ethics will determine what type of ethics the organization is going to develop, and what type of ethics the organization will follow. Next given, why do ethical rules develop? So the reason is that why some there is some type of a standard people develop to behave. So the first here ethical rules often develop to slow or temper the pursuit of self-interest. People are motivated by self-interest. So if they are going to be motivated for each and everything by self-interest, then in that case it may cause harm to all of us, means to the whole society, to the whole country. So that's why we should control the self-interest of the people, because self-interest may cause a lot of harm. Okay, so here given ethical rules often develop to slow or temper the pursuit of the self-interest. So, what are these? Ethical laws and rules emerge to control self interested behavior by individuals and organizations that threaten society's collective interest. Okay, so ethical laws and rules emerge to control the self interest. So, why to control the self interest or interested behavior of individuals? Because if those behaviors are not controlled, then in that case that may threaten society's collective interest. It means at a whole, at large level, society may get harm, or some type of damage may come, some type of more damage it may happen to the whole society. So that's why it is very important to control the self-interested behavior of individuals. Second given, ethical right, sorry, here given ethical rules, yes. Ethical rules and moral codes develop to increase the value that can be produced by people. But given ethical rules and moral codes develop to increase the value that can be produced by people when they interact with each other. So here, so why ethical rules are developed? First here given, a second given, ethical rules and moral codes develop to increase the value. So it develops to increase the value that can be produced by the people. If there is ethical behavior, then in that case more value can be created in the organization, and also when people interact with each other. Then third given, without these rules, free and fair competition degenerates into conflict and warfare, and everybody loses. So without these rules, means free and fair competition. So now you can, without these rules means without ethical rules, free and fair competition not possible, and those of competition may become conflict and warfare, and everybody loses, and whenever there it is warfare or any type of conflict, everybody loses. So that's why ethical rules are very important. Next, given following an ethical rule avoids expending time and effort in deciding the right thing to do. So here very important, following an ethical rule avoids expending time and effort in deciding the right thing to do. So what is right and what is wrong, if people follow some ethical rules, then uh, it is codified already, so it is easy to decide what is right and what is wrong. So that's why for that, for deciding whether the behavior is right or wrong, so for that there is no expending is required. So in other words, so we can say ethical rules reduce transaction cost between people, that is the cost of monitoring, negotiating and enforcing agreements with other people. Yeah. So ethical rules reduces the transaction cost between people when when people interact with each other. Then the cost of monitoring, I mean, because whether the other person is working or doing something honestly or not, for that there will be no cost for monitoring the honesty or something like that. Okay. So that's why written ethical rules reduce transaction costs between people, that is the cost of monitoring, negotiating and enforcing agreements with other people. Behaviors that follows accepted ethical rules confers a reputation effect on an individual or an organization that also reduces transaction cost. Again, behavior that follows acceptable ethical rules again reduces what transaction cost, because a reputation effect, okay, confers a reputation effect. For example, if any person is behaving according to a certain ethical rule, then in that case that person's reputation may increase. Okay, and that increase in the reputation will reduce the transaction cost. If reputation increased, it means that person is trustworthy, it means we can trust to that person, and for that there is no need to monitor that person. Okay. Next given, why does unethical behavior occur? So now we understood that why ethical rules develop. So now the second uh, question here, another question it arises, that why does unethical behavior occur? So following are the reasons. So the first reason is given, personal ethics. In theory, people learn ethical principles and moral codes as they mature as individuals in a society. It means whatever ethical principle or moral codes people learn, they learn as they mature. As they mature, ethics are obtained from such resources. Sorry, from such sources. Ethics are obtained from such sources as family and friends, education, professional training, and from organizations of all kinds. Okay, so personal ethics are developed from family and friends, education, professional training, and from organization. So these personal ethics, now you see, may affect how person behave. So from these people, from these People learn to differentiate right from wrong in a society or in a social group. So whatever they learn from their family and friends, education and professional training, or from organization, those all things combinedly result in personal ethics. Okay, so personal ethics, and according to that, the person differentiate what is right and what is wrong in the society and also in social group. So, on the basis of that, here given just below, managers in an organization may come to believe. So now, belief system developed from families, friends, education, like that. So from those things, the managers may come to believe that, here given, managers in an organization may come to believe that any action that promote or protect the organization are more important than any harm the organization does to others. It means from those values and rules which the managers have learned from their family, friends, education. So those things developed ethics, and according to those ethics, managers may believe that doing whatever thing, whether the action is going to harm the society at a large, is acceptable by him. Okay, and means acceptable, it may he or she may think that uh, do means protecting organization is more important as compared to uh, means any type of harm to the society as a whole. Then next given, self-interest. So we normally confront ethical issues when we are weighing our personal interest against the effects of our action on others. So here given, we normally confront ethical issues. When we confront ethical issues, when we are weighing, means when we see the personal interest against the effects of other actions on other, means effects of our actions on others, means if we weigh that our personal interest, it is more important as compared to the effect on others, then in that case we will behave according to that. And if we, means if we think that the action on other, or if the action taken by us affect others are more important, then in that case we will behave in the other way. So outside pressure, so many studies find that the likelihood of a person's engaging in unethical or criminal behavior is much greater when outside pressure exists for that person to do so. So outside pressure may also cause the person to behave unethically. So these are the reasons why unethical behavior occur. Now, next topic here given, creating an ethical organization. How we can create an ethical organization? An organization is ethical if people inside it are ethical. If people in the organization are behaving according to acceptable ethical values and beliefs, then we can say that organization is ethical. So how we can create that type of ethical organization? So many points are given, so one by one I will explain. So first of all, let's uh, you know what get the overview of ethical organization. Then after I will explain different ways to develop ethical organization. Beyond personal consideration, an organization can encourage people to act ethically by putting in place incentives for ethical behavior and disincentive to punish those who behave unethically. It means here we can say the organization may place incentive for ethical behavior and disincentives to punish those who behave unethically. Means ethical behavior is going to be rewarded and unethical behavior is going to be punished. So if that type of system is developed in the organization, then we can create ethical organization. Next given, as a leader, a manager can promote moral values that result in specific ethical rules and norms. See here, as a leader, a manager can promote moral values that result in specific ethical rules and norms that people use to make decisions. So as a leader, what managers can do, can promote moral values. Okay, so managers can result moral values which people can use. I mean, those moral values which people can use to decide, will use to decide any particular in any particular situation. Those rules are going to be used. Then here given, outside the organization, as a liaison outside the organization, or a spokesperson outside the organization. As a spokesperson, a manager can inform prospective customers and other stakeholders about the organization's ethical values and demonstrate those values through behavior toward stakeholders, such as by being honest and acknowledging errors. Okay, means outside the organization, managers may uh, so means you can say here, can inform the prospective customers. Okay, outside the organization, managers can inform or tell prospective customers and other stakeholders about the organization's ethical values and demonstrate those values through behavior toward stakeholders, such as, so what type of behavior? By being honest. So being honest, it is a type of ethical behavior. And acknowledging errors means, if manager is acknowledging errors, then also that is a type of, what is that? That is a type of ethical behavior. Okay, so in more detail we can study this one. So one more topic given here. So under how we can create an ethical organization, under that here one given, designing an ethical structure and control system. Ethics influence the choice of a structure, means, so what type of, now you can see here, ethics influence the choice of a structure and culture that coordinates resources and motivate employees. So ethics influence means what type of ethical values the organization has. So those ethical values and beliefs will influence the choice of the structure. Means, in other words, we can say the structure and culture of the organization can reveal us that what type of ethical values and beliefs that organization possess or that organization has. Managers can design an organizational structure. Managers can design an organizational structure that reduces the incentive for people to behave unethically. So managers can design the structure. Okay, now again, let's see, designing an ethical structure and control system. So this one I was explaining. So managers can design an organizational structure that reduces that reduces the incentive for people to behave unethically. Means the managers can design the structure. In other words, we can say structure means, from the structure of the organization, the information can be revealed that whether what type of ethical values and belief system the organization has. Here, the creation of authority relationships and rules that promote ethical behavior and punish unethical acts will encourage members to behave in a socially responsible way. So here given create authority relationship means authority relationship given here creation of authority relationships and rules that promote means authority relationships and rules that promote ethical behavior and punish unethical acts will encourage members to behave in a socially responsible way. Procedures that allow subordinates access to upper level managers to voice concern about unethical organizational behavior can be established. The position of ethics officer can be created to investigate claims of unethical behavior, and ethics committees can make formal ethical judgments. So these are the way means by using what ethics officer means by establishing a position of ethics officer can increase or can encourage ethical behavior and discourage unethical behavior. Ethical values flow down from top of the organization but are strengthened or weakened by the design of the organizational structure. Means ethical values may come from the top of the organization means from the top management, but whether that ethical or whether those ethical values are going to be strengthened or weakened depend on the organizational structure. So that's why organizational structure is very important for ethical behaviors. Now second given, creating an ethical culture. So we all know culture is very important for the organization. The values, rules, and norms that define an organization's ethical position are part of culture. It means it, the values, rules, and norms that define organization ethical position means whatever uh, organizational ethics are or ethical behaviors are. So those ethical behaviors are according to what some values, rules, and norms, and those values, rules, and norms are part of culture. An ethical culture is an ethical culture is most likely to emerge if top managers are ethical, and an ethical culture can become an ethical one if the top management team is changed. Now you see here. So ethical culture is most likely to emerge if top managers are there. If top managers are ethical, then in that case, the culture will most probably be ethical. The creation of ethical culture requires commitment at all levels of an organization from the top to down. Means if we have to create an ethical culture, then for that commitment commitment at all levels of the organization required. Supporting the interest of stakeholders group. Okay, supporting the interest of stakeholder group. So this is the third way by which we can create or we can develop an ethical organization. We can develop an ethical organization. So pressure from outside stakeholders has become increasingly important in promoting ethical organizational behavior. The government and its agencies, industry council, and regulatory bodies and consumer watchdog groups all play a role in establishing the ethical rules that organizations should follow when doing business. Okay. So here given supporting interest of stakeholders group means pressure from outside stakeholders means outside stakeholders pressure means give pressure to the organization so that the organization develop ethical norms, rules, and values so that people working in the organization should behave according to those ethical values, norms, and rules. Okay, so in these three ways given by which we can create an ethical organization. So thank you all.